Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network. I get the privilege of working alongside all of our creators at Enrollify, but I wanted to take just a quick moment to tell you about why I love the Talking Tactics podcast hosted by Diana Kibbolds. Every other Tuesday, They drops a new episode where she focuses on a single tactic that moved the needle on any enrollment metric, from inquiries and booth visitors to apps completed and deposits, even registrations, you name it. The catch? The tactic had to be done with limited resources, either by a single person or a small but mighty team, or limited time, or maybe without a lot of money. The podcast format is fun and engaging, and it's just different from the more traditional 60-minute interview style shows. If you work in enrollment management or marketing, be sure to give Day's show a listen. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.Enrollify.org or just search Talking Tactics wherever you get your podcasts. I think that where we've been in the last 15 months is going to these third-party tools like ChatGPT to accomplish different use cases. Now, what I'm hearing you say is it's actually going to be built into the technology that you're already using, and that feels like a huge game changer.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at Enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at Element451.com. Hello. Welcome to this special episode of Higher Ed Pulse. I have a very special guest with me today. Hello, Ardis. How are you doing?
Hey, Mallory. It's great being here.
Ardis is the CEO and founder of Element451. He is also one of the co-hosts on Generation AI, which is one of the shows right here on Enrollify. Definitely recommend you take a listen to that. We'll drop a link in the show notes. Ardis, I'm going to get to see you in San Diego very soon for the ASU GSV Air Show and Summit. Super excited to head back to the West Coast. Some listeners know that I lived in SoCal for a number of years. Ardis, you're speaking at the Air Show. What are you talking about?
So we have a couple of different presentations. And for those of you who don't know, the ASU GSV Air Show is the pre-separation of ASU GSV Summit, which is an EdTech, kind of future of EdTech conference. And it's all about AI, right? So we're going to be showcasing some of the new innovations that we're doing on Element as part of one of the presentations. And another one, we're going to be talking about this AI-ready campus and how institutions or higher ed institutions specifically think about AI in their campuses and how they can use it for the student experience, to improve student experience and improve staff productivity.
Didn't you do a similar session as a webinar earlier this year for Enrollify?
We did, yeah. We have a whole series of 5 of them, as a matter of fact, that we launched all about actionable AI. AI-ready campus, AI for productivity, AI for student experience, AI for teaching and learning, and then just understanding AI overall. So highly recommend you go take a look at those for sure.
We'll drop a link in the show notes. So that's great. So if folks for some reason can't make it out to the Air Show this year, you can still catch a lot of that content on Enrollify. But that is not what we are here to talk about today. I know that you have some pretty exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. And Ardis, you've really been at the forefront of integrating AI into the educational journey now for well more than 15 months. I have certainly learned so much from you, and I suspect many of our listeners have as well, between creating some really impactful resources like this webinar series we just talked about, to being among the first to really integrate generative AI into education technology. You've been driving this bus, so I'd love to hear about the road. What has been significant and what has changed over the past 15 months?
So we call it the BC era, before ChatGPT era, and then the AC after ChatGPT. As soon as ChatGPT dropped on the market and some of these large language models were available, now we are able to actually create content and have AI that can actually produce really meaningful things. And we saw a huge opportunity there to incorporate it as part of our software. We kind of can close the loop now because Element, we're doing a lot of automation, kind of insights on student experience, but content generation was always very painful. So now we're able to close the loop on that. So since then, we've been able to kind of put products on the market very, very quickly. So we've done our AI chatbots, which we released a year ago, called BoltBot. And that was one of the most advanced higher education chatbots for answering questions and having conversational chatbots, so to speak, for higher education. We've adopted and kind of moved forward with what we call Copilot, Bolt Copilot, which is actually serving administrators and staff to create campaigns, to write email content for them, to do translation, and so on and so forth. So that has progressed very far over the last 15 months. And where we are today is really in a very interesting place where we're building so much AI and technology for higher education, but the AI learning and the AI literacy on the other side is that schools are still lagging behind quite a bit. And that's why we're doing a lot of these AI teaching and learning and AI webinars and producing a lot of resources because we want the market to kind of take advantage of the opportunities that there are both for boosting productivity and student experience, but they need to learn. Leaders need to learn and need to get used to AI first. I gave a presentation and a workshop at a large public institution here in Raleigh last week. And I asked how many of you have used ChatGPT? And everybody raises their hand. And I asked how many people of you have actually used the paid version of ChatGPT? And only 3 people raised their hands. So that means that everybody else is they're not getting the advantage of using an AI that is very, very capable, like GPT-4. So they're dabbling around with it, but they're not really using it for meaningful work, which is unfortunate. So the technology is advanced really far, but the industry, higher education, and our understanding and usage of it for people who are on campus is not advancing as fast as we would like it to be.
Just recently, I read Cengage's annual digital learning pulse survey, and I mentioned this in a recent Pulse episode. I was really surprised with the data, with 77% of 4-year and 89% of 2-year administrators who took this survey reported feeling that their institution is not ready for the changes AI is set to bring. We've certainly, I think, heard this sentiment from faculty, but it was interesting, even trustees echoed this sentiment based off of these survey results. So when you talk about how only 3 people raised their hands in the room that you were in, I'm not particularly surprised having seen those survey results. So what do we do about this? Because you said it yourself a few minutes ago, content generation is painful. Any marketer listening to this deeply feels that statement because it's true. There's so many steps that go into generating just one single email, let alone an entire campaign that's multi-channel for a specific audience, or even the, what sometimes feels like a pipe dream of having one-to-one level of personalization. So I have to imagine that AI can be a transformative solution here. So talk to me about that, Ardis.
Yeah, look, all the institutions are looking at the first wave, they're looking at it from a teaching and learning perspective. So introduction of AI in the classroom, but that's just one part of it. The rest of the areas where AI can be very, very impactful, and nobody is talking about it a lot, is around the student experience, providing support and support services, and providing 24-hour replies to students, and also on the staff productivity side. It's like, how can we do things better, faster, build workflows with AI? They can, we use this term quite a bit here. It's like make one person feel like 10, right? So just amplify the capabilities of this. It doesn't have to be just in the content creation, but it can be in a lot of things. So we have these two different areas where we just don't have enough time, staff, to support those students. So AI can play a huge role in there, in student services and support, both on the enrollment side, current students, even alumni, but also in producing content and actually doing work like analysis and design work and all of these things. And because AI is prompting can be very difficult for a lot of folks. Of course, I have a course on prompt engineering, but still it takes a long time to be a really good prompter. And you can get out of the AI what you need, but it requires a lot of work, right? So what we've seen is that folks are just stuck in kind of the first gear and they need to get upskilled. But that's not really the future. That's not really where we are. So what we're doing is we are saying, hey, you know what? We're going to wrap all of these functionality. And rather than thinking about you having to go to ChatGPT and prompt about a campaign, we're actually going to give you a full assistant and we're going to build functionality. And we're going to take the functionality of what we have built for student-facing bots or kind of the administrative-facing bots. And we're going to build a whole platform that we're calling AI, our Bolt AI assistants, that is specifically doing tasks or supporting that student, and it has the same skills and it has the same knowledge as an individual on campus. So it's personifying and it's taking the persona of a admissions counselor, it's taking the persona of a designer, it's taking the persona of a campaign strategist. So that's our AI assistance platform that we are building right now. And it's really, really exciting because it actually connects the gap now between, how somebody thinks about AI and use cases, right? We've been talking about these use cases now for a year. It's like, well, where do I use it? It's like, great, it can write sonnets for me and Shakespearean, whatever. But it's like, how do I actually use it for my day-to-day work? I need use cases. So we have kind of gone beyond and start thinking, okay, this needs to be a wrapper around the actual work that somebody is doing. And it connects a lot better with our mental model of AI as an assistant and AI as an amplifier and as a tool, a technology as a tool for amplifying our work that we're doing. So it kind of sits alongside us and and it has the same capabilities as another team member that we can go to, but now we can get access to it 24/7. Students can get access to the same capabilities 24/7 rather than waiting, a 9 to 5 or waiting for their appointments. They can ask questions. They can get recommendations on next courses. They can explore different campus resources and so on and so forth.
So it's pretty clear from this explanation that these AI assistants are very different than the traditional bots that we've seen and interacted with in the past. Let's dig into how these assistants work. Can you walk us through some of the core functionalities and how they actually interact with students? And, I guess one more question, what makes their approach so effective and personalized?
Yeah, of course. So when you're thinking about traditional AI or bots, you have to even make a distinction at that point, right? So chatbots have been traditionally used for just answering questions. So you upload a set of questions and answers, and they're picking which one is the best, answer for you. It provides a link to a resource or something like that. When we moved away to conversational AI chatbots, with BoltBot, we now introduced all of the reasoning capabilities and the conversational nature of ChatGPT-like models, right? These large language models. So now we've evolved that. So we have a knowledge base. It's able to pull information from the knowledge base. We call this conversational AI chatbots, right? And then now the next phase is giving these AI bots tools or skills. So when you provide those skills and those tools, now they're a little bit more capable. So not only can they answer questions for you, they can actually do things for you. So now we're moving into the realm of assistance. It's like they're actually able to do work on your behalf based on what you're asking them. Now move that a little bit further along and you can say, okay, if I include multiple tools and multiple skills, and I have a knowledge base that is scoped specifically to that bot, and I provide different personas for that bot, because when I interact with a bot or I interact with someone, if I have a question about admissions and Mallory is the admissions counselor, for example, is very warm, has the knowledge around admissions, you can guide me in a specific direction, but you're not an academic advisor. You don't know the catalog. You don't know, for example, how to recommend certain things around prerequisites, co-requisites. So it doesn't make sense for me to kind of ask you those kinds of questions. So the persona changes, and an academic advisor is more like when you ask it a question of biology, it's not going to say, oh, and here, by the way, are the career options for biology that you can do afterwards, because that's not your persona, right? As an admissions person, you're providing those recommendations, but as an academic advisor, you don't care about that. You're actually driven to, hey, here's the courses that you need to take. Here is all the prerequisites. Here's kind of the next course that you need. So the personality changes, what you're focusing on, and your core competency changes of what you're doing, your skills and the knowledge base that you have access to changes. So that's how, the evolution of AI assistants has gone from kind of the traditional tree-based chatbots before ChatGPT to conversational chatbots to chatbots with certain skills to now AI assistants, where we have a wide variety of assistants that personify a particular use case. So we're wrapping it up as AI assistants.
The impact as a staff member, I think, is pretty clear based off of what you're saying, right? It's going to allow me to do different things. You called it a team member, in fact. And I love that personification of the Bolt assistant as somebody that you're working alongside. So as you're working with these Bolt assistant team members, you've referenced a bunch of different skill sets that it can do, from writing content to designing content, etc. How does that all work in concert with each other within the technology? Because I think that where we've been in the last 15 months is going to these third-party tools like ChatGPT to accomplish different use cases. Now, what I'm hearing you say is it's actually going to be built into the technology that you're already using, and that feels like a huge game changer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't need to go to ChatGPT. Your data is not there. You're going to work in your current tools. And that's exactly what we're building in Element, is that like we can pull the context over whatever you're working. If you're working with an email, we can pull the context of that. And now the designer or the art director, for that matter, can make recommendation what best images to use for that particular email. And the writer can do the same thing, or campaign editor. So when you're working with this AI assistants, the way that you're going to be able to work with them is just through the conversational interface, right? So the data, it's already in these tools. You don't need to go to ChatGPT or you need to go to Midjourney and create these images. We're bringing it all together. We're using their APIs, or we're using these large language models, and we're using the technology underneath. However, we're bringing it into one platform, right? We're bringing it together for you and having a unified interface. So rather than now thinking about using different tools, think about those as the assistants. Those assistants have access to those capabilities in the background, and they're doing that work for you. So when you have a team of these assistants, what's happening behind the scenes is we describe and we have very strict kind of components and rules on what the skill set and capabilities is for each assistant. And the system knows. So you have a campaign assistant. Now you need to hand it off to a copywriter. You need to hand it off to an art director. So when all those tasks get completed behind the scenes, we kind of come up with a list of tasks in order to accomplish certain goals. And then each one of those tasks, different assistants can do that, but then also it can go in parallel as well, or it can go sequentially. It's like, okay, now you do this, then you do this. You hand it off to a strategist first, and they come up with a series of 10 emails. Then you hand it off to the writers and say, okay, or researchers and say, go get me data now for each one of these emails topics. And then you hand it off to the writers and say, okay, write an email based on these topics. And the writer is actually, used to your tone of voice and the school's tone of voice and so on and so forth. Then the writer is done. Now we hand it off to the email builder and we say, okay, we need to build these emails. It says, okay, great. I have the copy. I don't have any images for this. Here's what kind of image would look really great for this because I'm using the art director. So this is how the orchestration is working in the background. You're seeing like just what the interface is showing you, but like there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes for us to orchestrate all these pieces together. And that's where the secret sauce is, right? It's not just using ChatGPT. And it's like, well, damn, I can go ahead and ask ChatGPT to give me a campaign, but orchestrating all these pieces together in order to give you and deploy a full campaign that's using all of these different tools in orchestration, it's kind of the evolution, the next generation.
That's wild. I mean, that's what you just described, a month's worth of work. And you're telling me that's going to happen just in the background, not even necessarily on the user face that my team would see. It's just happening in the background. I mean, that's wild. Now, Ardis, I know that these Bolt assistants are incredible, but I got a sneak peek at a recent Element town hall around another innovation that's going to be released around the ASU GSV summit called Bolt Search. And I am particularly interested about this, given that I have a background working for an agency that did a lot of website work in the 2010s. Tell us about Bolt Search and why it is going to revolutionize the website experience for students.
I mean, I was in that industry too, and we did a lot of websites, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth. I was on the institutional side. We built a whole Drupal website for NYU. This was Drupal 5 or 6 at the time. So we built this amazing experience. At the core of it was really programs and program explorers. So we spent months and months and months, and we spent a lot of time bringing different faculty members and different departments together. And guess what was the number one contention was, I want real estate on the homepage. I want real estate on, like on the nav. Like I want my links and everything to be there, because that's how websites were built a decade and a half ago, right? It was all about IA, right? Not AI, IA. So information architecture.
That's right.
So I can't tell you how many sticky note exercises we've gone through to kind of have all of those on the wall. But looking back at it now, I'm like, damn, that was a lot of time that we spent on organizing information. So this idea of organizing information and retrieving information has evolved, right? So since then, somebody went to your website and all you were able to see is navigate through your website, through the navigation. And it was basically what you thought the user needed, right? That's why you did a lot of research. If you were lucky, you got someone like M. Stoner in order to kind of provide the information architecture and do all the research. But if you weren't, then you kind of did it internally. So you kind of put that on the student. Hey, this is how you travel our website. Now, Google came along, and then now it's all about SEO, right? Because now the power goes to the user. The user is like, okay, I'm going to type a couple of keywords. If your first 2 links come up, and I'm going to look at the blue links at the top, I'm going to go directly. So the faculty members or those people who wanted their site to be on the main nav, like they don't care about that anymore, because information is foundable wherever it is. Like if it's 3 levels deep, it's going to surface if the user types in the right word. But where we are today is that the explosion of chatbots like ChatGPT, people are going to ChatGPT and Perplexity, for example, to get their answers. So they're typing questions into the search bar. And this generative search experience that Google is introducing and other models like Perplexity are introducing is that the person is not even going to the website to get that answer. It's actually, the answers are coming to them in a really nicely formatted way, just like they would ask a question, you get an answer. So this next evolution of knowledge discovery becomes really, really important. It's like, how can, schools still bring students to their website, and what are they going for? So as soon as somebody goes to your property or your website, they're not going to the search bar. They're not going to your information architecture and searching around. They're going to the chat bubble right away, right? So that's what they're getting trained to do now. So they're asking questions. So yes, we do have BoltBot, but these are chat experiences, right? So they're not necessarily asking those kinds of questions. So what we're building with Bolt Search is we're bringing the generative discovery experience from, think like a Perplexity.ai, but in your website. So now you can embed Perplexity in your website, and it's only scoped to your website. So we're going in, we're scraping your website, we're pulling in the videos, data, and so on and so forth, and providing a curated experience to that student. So when they ask a question, we give them a very nicely curated answer. We're bringing in all the resources, images, any videos that are available that kind of match that. And then we're doing kind of follow-up questions as well. So it's like, hey, have you thought about this? Or here's some other questions that you might find interesting as well. So that's what we're calling a a kind of a discovery experience, right? So generative discovery experience. So we're bringing that to the website. So as you know, websites are the number one destination for students to get information about a school, and they haven't changed in a really long time. Like that number one has not gone down, even though Google is around, even though we have all these different apps and we have all these different aggregators or social media, still the website is number one. So we want it to be a place where you can embed these search experiences, discovery experiences, and the student can now, experience the website and the content in how they want, rather than navigating through different pages and so on and so forth. So that's the crux of it. Sorry if it took a little bit longer, but I wanted to contextualize that because this is a long time coming, right? It's not just, hey, we woke up one day and we said, okay, let's just do this, right? This is kind of the evolution of websites and how we think about websites.
And how people are interacting with search and how people want to find information. I mean, I think that that's such a key insight. And that homepage real estate does become a whole lot less important when somebody is just navigating to the site and has a space where they can kind of immediately ask questions or insert some information, and the information is just delivered and surfaced for them. It really puts the experience of the website into the user's hands in a way that's never happened before.
Exactly. There was a recent study that was done, and the company was Algolia. And what they saw was a 50 or 60% increase in the length of queries, or maybe even more than that, over the past year. So people are adding longer and longer queries in their search, assuming that it's going to work like ChatGPT, right? So the behavior is changing. They're not adding keywords anymore. They're adding, full sentences and full questions in those search bars. And you better have that experience. Otherwise, keyword searches are not going to work anymore.
So Ardis, given we both worked for agencies and worked with so many customers through website redesign experiences, I know that you are intimately familiar with the silos that typically fill a campus regardless of the size of the student population. So implementing AI like Bolt Assistants, like Bolt Search, at this scale on a higher ed campus, it's got to come with some challenges. And I'd love to hear you speak to how successful customers are overcoming them.
It's difficult adopting AI right now because of the stigmatization that's happening from the teaching and learning side and the AI side. And the number one thing that we can do to make that easier is provide some AI literacy, right? So provide AI teaching and learning and AI literacy. This is the only way that we can kind of showcase how AI can be impactful. You can come in and you can talk all day about capabilities, but unless somebody sees it and unless somebody understands what the implications of this are on ROI, so not only the ROI, because the ROI maybe was touted before, all of these new advances are happening, but when they see how this can connect, or when they see that how useful it is from the student's experience, from the employee's experience, then the light bulb goes off. And then you pair that up with some use cases, and because the time has been so short, right? Usually in higher education, we are like 1 year cycles in terms of ROI. So like we have to compare it with last year. And this technology is just so brand new. It's like, well, how do you compare the results that you had last year with this year? So we need a little bit more time. But some of that stuff is coming in now. So we have schools like Foresight Tech, and we have a lot of other schools that are using like Muhlenberg, for example, that are using our chatbots. So we don't have data right now for some of the newer stuff, but going to your kind of leaders and your boss, or going to a VP or president and saying, hey, look, we increased our enrollment by 10, 12%, and this is the Foresight case. We implemented an AI assistant, AI chatbot, which has access to all of our knowledge. We dropped call volume by 25% coming in, so we need less people to answer these questions 24/7. We increased our student experience, right? And by the way, these things are so good that it can answer about 80% of the questions that are coming in. And here's the time that we saved if we were to add more headcount. So now think about that. Like, that's a pretty compelling use case. And that's just On the student kind of support side, right? Now think about productivity side. I need to go hire an agency to do a communications campaign for us, right? Or I need to hire a writer in order to write all these different emails to personalize it for the student. It just becomes really, really overwhelming when you have to think about that. And it's something that, you if you show the ROI and you have your leaders kind of understand a little bit more about AI and become a little bit more AI literate, then things will have to move. So the best thing that you can do is try to get your leaders into some kind of AI literacy situation where they can start learning a little bit more about it.
We have a definitive guide to AI that is 40 pages long, 40 pages short, maybe. It could probably be an 80-page document.
Yeah.
But it was designed for what you're speaking about. It is designed to print out, slap on your executive leader's desk and point to it and say, this is why all this stuff matters. This is why you're hearing about AI every single day. So I'll drop that link in the show notes too for everybody so that they can go grab that guide. Ardis, as we wrap up this conversation today, let's look forward. It's hard to predict where things are going with AI. And, just a year ago, we were at Element hosting our very first couple of webinar series around Chat GPT and generative AI. And now 1 full year later, you're like, nah, that's the thing of the past. We're building Bolt Assistants. It's your new AI team. We all need new leadership and management skills to figure out how to manage this cohort of tech assistants. But, it just changes so quickly. All that to say, looking forward, Ardis, where is this AI stuff going? Like at the end of 2024, where are we going to be?
I think where we're going to be is that 2023 was all about kind of the excitement of AI, and there was this foundational technologies that were coming on board, and everybody was excited. Oh, this thing can be better. Oh, this AI bot can do better. So 2024, we've kind of switched to more of a, how can we start thinking about implementation and how can we start thinking about the use of this rather than the opportunity. And so a lot of foundational technologies were built in 2023. Now we can start thinking about implementation. So what we're going to be by the end of the year is that almost all of us are going to have these co-pilots or AI assistants in one way or another. Microsoft Copilot, for example, that's a pretty big one. That's, of course, is it good enough? It's a more general one, so it's not going to do certain things. So anyway, we're going to be interfacing with these AI assistants quite a bit by the end of the year. And higher ed institutions are going to be, maybe by 2025 is when we're going to start seeing a lot of the benefits of having implemented these in 2024 or having started to implement them. So 2025 is going to be when the institutions who have, so you're going to see those who have and who have nots. And it reminds me of a really good quote from Julie Sweet. She was at the Economic Forum to the IMF in January. And as part of the panel, and I use this in my presentation, she said, the single biggest difference between those who will use AI successfully and not are the leaders educating themselves. And the difference between those who will use AI and those who will not will kind of explode tremendously. So the divide is going to be even bigger because the opportunity and the speed at which we can now replicate workflows and we can be productive increases tremendously. So keep that in mind. We need to start investing in 2024 in order to see those returns in 2025. If you wait until 2025, I won't say too late, but you still can invest in it, but you're going to be left behind because those leaders and those institutions who are going to be investing in it are going to see the ROI, and that divide is going to be even bigger then.
And that's, I think, absolutely critical for our industry, which is not expanding. Sadly, we're in an industry that's getting smaller every day. So I suspect the stakes are really high for institutions to start to adopt technologies like this to really have a deep impact on that student experience.
One of our keynote speakers at Engage, Jeff Selingo, he had an article recently on the Chronicle where he said the age of a brick and mortar campuses, and you guys did a webinar, an episode on the Pulse I think you had mentioned this a few episodes back, where he said the brick and mortars differentiation is over. It's all about technology. Differentiation of the future is all going to be about technology. So that should really hit home, because students are not coming to you to have that traditional experience where it's amazing, the lazy river. I think you guys called it the lazy river.
That's right. What is the lazy river of AI? That was the question in the very first Pulse episode we dropped.
Well, I can tell you that I have been using an Apple Vision Pro now for the past month, and it is incredible, like the immersive experience. So forget about the lazy river. Now you can strap on and you can be anywhere in the world, surrounded by anybody, be in the middle of a soccer match, or in first base, or wherever you want to be in a baseball game. This is incredible. So think about how you translate that to education. So how do you provide this teaching and learning experiences to students that they don't necessarily have to be physically on campus, but you're providing, these experiences that they can kind of learn about whatever as part of this interactive, technology experiences. And they're coming to you because you have a lead in, you're providing the best education for nursing, but technology augmented nursing, right? So it's like, how do you do that? Automotive or coding or whatever it is, but you're teaching and you're providing students with kind of what's going to be the future, and you're teaching them how to. I get really excited about this stuff. So anyways, we can talk about this all day, but we're going to close this. We'll talk more about it next time.
I was just thinking to myself, Ardis, I was like, and here we go. We're like now in the middle of recording our second episode, because this is so fascinating, and it's a topic in and of itself. So we're going to have you back on for another bonus Pulse episode to talk about all of this. You can bring your AI goggles or whatever.
Yes.
The Apple Vision. And yes, I love it. The enthusiasm is clear, and I get the insider knowledge of getting to work alongside you every day and see that enthusiasm. It's definitely translating into the quality of the product. And that is just, it's revolutionary. It's stuff that I'm just not seeing literally anywhere else. And I know I say that with a very biased opinion, but it's some crazy shit, y'all. I'll drop that word. So we are going to be at the ASU GSV conference in San Diego, both the air show and the summit. Ardis and I will be there. As you heard at the top of the episode, Ardis is speaking. He has a couple different sessions. We'll be walking around. We've got a booth, and Enrollify is going to have a great presence at the summit as well, and the air show. So Dustin, a host of the Higher Ed Geek, Seth Odell, my co-host on the Pulse, Ardis, and myself will be at these events. We're going to have our podcast kit with us, and we would love to talk to you, listeners. So if you made it all the way to the end of this episode and you're going to be in San Diego, reach out to me or Ardis, Seth, or Dustin and let us know. We would love to set some time aside and just chat with you, hear what you're up to, hear what you're thinking about. We'd love to talk AI, but really we would love to talk about anything that is burning on your mind. So leave a comment or shoot us a DM. We'd love to get that conversation scheduled. Ardis, any parting words before we wrap up today?
I think I've talked enough today, so this is great. Thanks for having me on, Mel. This is great.
Amazing. All right. Well, folks, we will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.